Is it too much to ask to just leave the Batman alone? And now I've got you asking me, what are you talking about? What's going on? Who's hurting the Batman? Well, aside from the coterie of colorful costume-clad ne'er-do-wells that he butts head with on a regular basis, once again he is up against his greatest enemy of all time, Warner Brothers Pictures. Because they are considering folding Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson's The Batman storyline into the upcoming Peter Safran, James Gunn-led DC universe. And as you can tell, I have some opinions about this. And because I value your time and to a lesser extent mine, let's just dive on into today's discussion. Because though I'm excited for the new DC universe, this is not how I hope it starts off. With that all out of the way, let's discuss. Whoa, we're in a rush today, aren't we? Well, you're damn right. Because I don't know how long until we actually get a confirmation on this, so I gotta get my thoughts out there before inevitably they become irrelevant. Or I forget what I was gonna say because my attention span, it ain't what it used to be. And it wasn't much to begin with. So in case you haven't heard, DC's been trailing Marvel for the better part of the last decade. At least in terms of movies. If we're talking video games, and they were doing pretty well, at least up until the last 12 months. And now they're also kind of in a tight spot here as well. At least since the release of Marvel Rivals. What's DC's counter for this? The Suicide Squad? Wait a minute, we're getting off topic here. God, gotta keep you guys on track.
We must stay focused, brothers.
Back in 2008, Marvel, or Marvel Studios as now known as, launched this thing called a cinematic universe. Basically a bunch of movies that all take place in the same continuity, something that modern audiences today are more used to than actually standalone films. And that's why I want to bring today's discussion towards the idea of standalone films. Because DC also attempted something like this, though using Zack Snyder and that creative team didn't yield the results they were looking for. But never failing to pillage Marvel's leftovers, Warner Brothers decided to tap James Gunn to spearhead their new DC universe. Dropping everything except for I think the things he was involved in favor of a brand new, hopefully brighter and more exciting tomorrow. Most things will be different, others here and there will be the same, but for all intents and purposes, it's a clean break. Only because Warner Brothers took its time to get its act together, there was a wide swath of projects being produced under the last regime. Things like The Joker, Superman and Lois, Pennyworth, Swamp Thing until it was too expensive to keep making it, Batgirl until they stopped making it, The Harley Quinn Show, and of course, amongst all of these is the crown jewel, Titans. How'd that get into the script?
Fuck Batman.
Get it away! No, Jesus Christ, no, not that. The Batman, I'm talking about the Batman. Gotta talk to my editor.
Titans are my family.
Good one. Moving on.
Born out of a failed Ben Affleck-led DCEU, last one was called DCEU, this one's gonna be called the DCU, keep up with the acronyms. DCEU, in continuity Batman sequel, starring Affleck in the titular role. At first, Affleck was gonna star and direct the feature, however, as things started to get rolling, he realized he was gonna need another pair of hands to helm the ship, resulting in Matt Reeves being placed into the director's chair. Though further complications would see Affleck dropping the role altogether, and thus Robert Pattinson was brought in to don the cape and cowl himself. Things would get a little bit more complicated when it was announced that this film was no longer even connected to the DCEU, and was instead in its own continuity, divorced from any films that had come out prior. And to add even more complication, this was also around the time that James Gunn was announced to be the creative lead for the entirety of DC movies going forward. Yeah, the hierarchy of power really did change, didn't it?
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
This Batman movie was quite an ordeal to make. But I gotta be honest, even though a lot of things shifted around it, those changes actually might have turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Because instead of being hamstrung to a series that had up to this point not been very faithful to the character and mythos, now had the opportunity to take it in its own unique direction, and gave the director Matt Reeves carte blanche to do whatever he wanted with the character and world. What an opportunity to be placed in. And the cast and crew delivered in spades. The Batman is one of the most exciting depictions we've had of the city and those who inhabit it, held alongside greats like The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, and of course Batman and Robin. It's a shining example of what this team is able to accomplish when given more or less unfettered access to the character and universe. But if I have such a fondness for this film, then wouldn't I be excited for it to be a part of this up-and-coming DC universe? Do I not have faith in those who are tasked with steering this ship to deliver on their promises? And to this I say, of course I do. Listen, I've had my reservations with DC ever since the release of Dawn of Justice because, But when it comes down to people like James Gunn and Peter Safran, one of whom helmed the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, and more importantly the Scooby-Doo franchise, and the other in charge of managing the Conjuring franchise and acting as a producer for all of them, I believe this just might be the duo that can create a cinematic masterpiece that can rival Kevin Feige's magnum opus. You know, before they ran it into the ground.
Oh my God!
So what gives? If I'm so confident in the team helming the project, why wouldn't I want them to include something that I consider to be as close to perfect as a Batman movie can get? Well, for starters, let's first begin by getting the bogus reasons out of the way. A lot of people in this camp will say something like, you can't combine these universes because James Gunn is going to make a fantastical DC universe with magic and aliens and all sorts of supernatural elements. And the Batman is a grounded, realistic story. And to that I say, so? Just because your story is grounded doesn't mean it can't venture into the more obscure and weird parts of this world. There's plenty of examples of stories as they go on becoming more and more fantastical. The only hard lines are what you set for yourself. I can see this story going in a number of different directions, none of which require it to be something as real as a film like Sicario. You'll hear other arguments in the vein of, well, this is a dark universe. It's very gritty, and the Superman movie looks bright and hopeful. And again, what are you talking about? I mean, have you seen Our World? Think of how many stories that are going on right now. Love stories, revenge thrillers, political dramas, a persistently growing class divide. How'd that get in there? Comedies. I mean, if all of these can fit in Our World, then I don't see why James Gunn can't do the same. In addition, locking yourself to a house style is the exact thing I don't want DC to do. I mean, this is the exact reason why all the Marvel movies look and feel the same. You know, smug characters played by actors who, whilst are charming in real life, are forced into that standard hero mold, playing their part in front of a green screen so they can be digitally replaced with whatever bland, uninspired backdrops the producers decide to drop them in at the 11th hour. Shot and edited like a TV sitcom and color graded to look as similar to a slab of wet cement as humanly possible. I'm not saying DC will copy this exactly, but why limit yourself if the only reason to do so is so that each film has a sense of uniformity? The characters in the comics don't share this philosophy, so why should their big screen counterparts? I'm getting off topic again. The point is, I don't want everything to end up looking like the same homogenous gray glob of mediocrity. I in fact celebrate the differences stories have from one another. So none of these concerns I have with combining these universes stem from their contradicting tones or how the magic systems may line up with one another. This can all be managed by clear vision and good writing. No, the real reason I don't want them to be connected can all be boiled down to one word: intention. For what reason would they have to place a film like The Batman in a greater cinematic universe? Is it just so that way we can have David Cornswip and Robert Pattinson's characters shake hands? Or kiss? Maybe we just want to see his characters go up against the Batman who laughs during some kind of dark metal storyline? I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say there aren't some benefits to having a shared cinematic universe. I'm just not certain those benefits outweigh the drawbacks of being tied to the greater DC continuity. But whatever good or bad might come, it doesn't answer the question, why would they do it? Is it for storytelling reasons? Or is this all just to make a quick buck? Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but there are plenty of producers out there who would torpedo the film they were working on if they thought it would better maximize their bottom line. Hell, sometimes they'll find that it's better to not release a film at all. Don't think I forgot about you, Coyote vs. Acne. Not every one of these guys is in it for the art. They're just looking to line their wallet. So if they think that by using the sequel to link the Batman to the greater DC universe will improve their likelihood of making more money, they're probably gonna do it. And this regardless of what anyone on the crew or even the director wants. If Matt Reeves wants to keep working in this sandbox, then he's gotta play by the rules. And if the rules are, you gotta be part of this universe, well, that's what's gonna have to happen. And all reports claim that Matt Reeves is uninterested in linking his crime drama to the greater cinematic universe. But at the time, reports said that this wasn't gonna be an issue. Because during his big announcement, James Gunn specifically pointed out that certain series would be marked as elseworlds.
Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds.
Divorce from all other continuities and allow any tale to be told regardless of if it lines up with what came before. But obviously now we're hearing rumblings that maybe this isn't necessarily the case for the Batman series. And with the script delays for the Batman 2 being announced, it's quite possible this sequel might not be released till as late as 2026 or even 2027. So obviously there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. It is my hope that James Gunn continues to honor his word and allow these creative minds to pursue the story they want to tell. But it might not necessarily be up to him either. Though Peter Safran and James Gunn have been placed in charge of DC, that doesn't mean they don't still have bosses that they report to as well. So this decision might be out of their hands. But working off the assumption that it is their call to make, then I do hope James Gunn sticks to his word and allows for Elseworlds stories to continue to exist regardless of how successfully they might perform. I mean, situations of a singular film being so successful that studios forced into a mold that it wasn't designed for is the exact reason that the last DC universe failed. Aside from a handful of references to a greater pantheon, Man of Steel was not intended to be DC's answer to the first Iron Man, but rather was co-opted to be the start of a new DC universe. After the release of Marvel's Avengers in 2012 broke $1 billion at the box office, every movie studio and their mother was like, how do we do that with our properties? And thus we got things like the Conjuring universe, the Dark universe for like a split second, and the Monster universe, all with varying levels of success. But it was DC that would be the most obvious rival to Marvel's empire. And Warner Brothers recognized this, and therefore forced Batman into their Man of Steel sequel in order to get the ball rolling on this cinematic outing. Obviously that didn't work out, and now we're starting again from square one. And don't think that this forcing a sequel is a thing of the past. In fact, if you need a recent example, look no further than Joker 2 Folie à Deux. Or Filet à Deux, or however I'm supposed to pronounce this pretentious ass title. At the time, Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips both claimed that the first Joker, this was a one-off. But it made a lot of money, so you know what happened. We got this beautiful disaster. So don't think the days of studios going back on their word is behind us. No, we live in the Pandora's box where anything will be done if it benefits the bottom line. But I'm hoping that because James Gunn is in charge of this, or at least we're told he is, that his instincts as a creator will supersede his responsibilities as a producer. Let the Batman be what it's always meant to be. An elseworlds story, free to take the character and his world in any direction they see fit. Furthermore, this allows us to have a brand new Batman acting alongside David Cornsweet's Superman, bringing a whole new spin to the role. I mean, look at the opportunity this allows us. Having the Batman exist as a grounded, realistic world leaves an entire other dimension for this character that the next director can explore. I mean, it's not like anyone's ever done this, exploring the wackier parts of Gotham on the silver screen. I mean, I guess there was Joel Schumacher, but that was a little too campy for my taste.
Enough monkey business.
I would rather see something more akin to the Arkham franchise. We're sure the tone was dark and they weren't just joking around the whole time. They did take the situations they were in seriously. It's just those situations weren't exclusively standard crime drama affairs, but were also crazy killer clowns, roided up inmates, magical men made out of mud, resurrected assassins, and ladies who control building-sized plants. Not exactly the kind of adversaries you'd find in a series like The Sopranos, but they are uniquely Batman villains. We'll save my wish list for what I want the DCEU Batman to look like for another time. For now, all I'll say is, Matt Reeves doesn't seem to be very interested in pursuing these supernatural elements, so why force him to? If they want the Batman 2 to have any chance of surpassing the quality of its predecessor, then everyone needs to take a step back and let these guys cook. That seems to have been what happened with the Penguin series, and look at that. Another proud jewel in this ever-expanding The DC universe, where everything starts with a the. Having the stress of $1 billion franchise riding on every decision you make has never done any creative team any favors. I mean, hell, James Gunn should know this better than most. You think he gave a damn with what was going on in that last universe while he was working on the Suicide Squad? Hell no. I mean, in Peacemaker, he mentioned Batmite and Matter-Eating Lad. It didn't matter to him one lick, he just made the story he wanted to tell. And now circumstances have worked out where he's running the whole show. In fact, I wouldn't have been surprised if corporate had offered Matt Reeves the same position as James Gunn. Both made a fantastic DC movie starting with the word the, and then followed it up with an out-of-this-world HBO spin-off. And yes, I did first learn about the word coterie from Peacemaker. Well, aside from the coterie of colorful costume-clad ne'er-do-wells that he butts head with on a regular basis, we all learn words from somewhere.
So smart, me.
Anyways, I imagine if Matt Reeves wanted to be part of James Gunn's up-and-coming interconnected story, then he would have said yes by now. But it seems he's in the camp of, it wouldn't do his films much benefit in the long run. That or he just might not be interested in dedicating the next God knows how many years to this universe. James Gunn has pretty much signed away his life to make nothing but comic movies the next 10 plus years or so. And if that's what he wants to do, then more power to him. But that's not everyone's dream gig.
You can't force a dream onto someone else,
Can't
Dad.
force a dream on
Why
you.
are you yelling?
Because it's a good dream.
Maybe Matt Reeves will change his mind about linking everything together, either because they convince him it's the best thing for his story, or they'll just back a dump truck full of money in front of his doorstep. Though the artist in me would rather it not be that one. That being said, the sellout in me would insist they double it. So to wrap things up, the plain and simple reason I don't want them to fold the Batman into the DC universe is because of the precedent it sets moving forward. I'd much rather see a fresh new take on this character that isn't being co-opted because his first movie was so successful. As interesting it would be to have Robert Pattinson be the main universe Batman, I don't think it's worth sacrificing the possibility of having elseworld stories. A huge annoyance I've had with Marvel is the fact that everything needs to be in line with the main continuity. And if it's not directly linked by canon, then it still needs to share aesthetics and general vibes. I mean, this is the exact reason why Marvel's Avengers failed and Marvel Rivals is succeeding. I mean, it might go a little deeper than that, but it certainly helped. the willingness to divert and go in wild different directions is a market that DC can corner. But I guess we gotta wait and see. Maybe they'll allow for a wide multiverse of stories to be told, or everything will be condensed into a singular timeline. I mean, after all, if Marvel's What If has proven to us anything, is that the only way you can keep a multiverse alive is if you populate it with nothing but Captain Carters. They've truly found the perfect formula to success.